All right, today we are doing our first video interview for GreyBeards on Storage, and we have with us an old-time friend, Marc Farley, who's now working for Quaddra Software. So,
Hey
Marc,
now.
hey now, and Marc, why don't you tell us a little bit about Quaddra Software and what you're doing there?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Quaddra Software is doing file analytics, and you know what you've got is people have larger and larger amounts of files that they store. It's just it's just the end result of where our technology is going. A lot more information, a lot more files, and so what file analytics is about is working both with the file systems and the files, so administrators can figure out what they have to take action on it. In a nutshell, we create indices of metadata that comes from the file systems. We scan file systems. Well, we don't install in them, where we access them over the internet, and we scan them, we crawl those file systems, we pull the metadata, access date, modify date, owner information, all this kind of stuff, size, and then administrators can query that, save the results of those queries, and then dive into content. And we keep separate indices for content information, so they can look for things like intellectual property, social security numbers, those kinds of things, and allows them to move through massive amounts of data through an analytics tool that keeps these fast indices, and then search them so they can make decisions about which files they may want to keep, which ones they may want to move to secondary storage, which ones they may want to delete, that sort of stuff. That's what Quaddra's business is.
So Marc, do you provide? I realize you've got the indices for the metadata and the content. Do you provide the analytics that accesses those indices and reports on that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so there's basically it's the system is built for command line operation, so it can be used for scripting and whatnot. But we also built a UI on top of it, and the UI, is when it's like radio buttons. I want files over this age, I want files over this size, and then what you get back is a graphical representation that you can put in reports. You see a pie chart, you want to click on a section of the pie, that shows you then a list of all the files that inhabit that section of the pie chart. You can take those files and then save them, as tags, manipulate those. So there is a graphical interface, as well as the ability to script to drive this stuff. And we also just finished a policy engine for it, so you can do if this then that type of operations with it. So in an automated fashion, if a file is over such and such a day, on such and such a size, let me know. Notify me, move it, something like that. There's a lot of things you could run.
So you do have the data mover as well?
Yes, we do. Yeah, and right now it's the system is built for it's built for multi-core, multi-node. Right now, the only thing that's implemented is the multi-core part. We're working on the multi-node, so we can scale that out.
Okay.
And so
can I do something like once a quarter get the list of people that don't work here anymore and generate a report of here are all the files owned by people who don't work here anymore?
At this time, we don't. Yes, you will be able to. At this time, we don't have the list of names report done, but that's certainly a known requirement. We're not selling the product yet either, right?
Right.
We're continuing to develop, and so we're close. We're close to being there. But we won't be able to tell you who's not working there. You'll have to give us those names, and then we'll be able to pull their data.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in my experience as a sysadmin, getting that information from HR has always been, part of the problem. Like the IT guys are, I go to IT conferences and they say, "Are you guys handling the data for zombie users all that well?" And my response was always, "How do I know who the zombies are?
Who do I know?
Get it, I should get an email from HR that says
this guy's
guy doesn't
a zombie
work there anymore. Take his password away," but it rarely ever happened.
Yeah, so we see this. The more we talk to customers, the requirement to be able to identify files by user type just keeps coming up and up. So it's front and center as a requirement, and we know we need to get there. The next phase of our development is going to be parallelization of the code to be able to really scale up for these, petabyte scale environments.
Yeah. So, excuse me, the content indices. I mean, what sort of the problem with content is that there's also many different styles and different types of content. What sort of content do you guys currently support? I guess is the question.
Common text file type stuff. It's just Windows Office, Windows Office files, HTML, PDF with text. We don't have the ability to scan images in PDFs and find text in that yet. Okay. So,
but pretty much
that would be rather compute intensive.
it would. But the architecture of the system is built to be pluggable. So a different type of content is something that it can be added as a plugin. It doesn't have to affect core code.
Is it based on iFilters, or or are you writing all of your own?
As far as I know, we're writing our own, but I don't know the answer to that, Howard. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so the metadata stuff that you extract and stuff like that, are you adding metadata to the file directories themselves, or you have a separate metadata index altogether?
We keep our own metadata index. So we go out and we scan. The architecture is set up for pipelining, so we can scan multiple sources concurrently, and the update of the index happens fairly quickly. I'm going to go back just a second to answer Howard's question. We are using Solar, Apache Solar, for the content scan, and so I think the plugins have to, the plugin architecture works with Solar.
Right. Well, that relieves you of the cost and effort of maintaining the common filters, and you can worry about writing your own extensions.
So where do you see this going, Mark? Is it like a data leak prevention kind of solution, or is this more or less just a file management, data management kind of solution, or a combination of both of those, or what?
It's a combination of both. We'd like to be able to provide core functionality for a broad range of customer sets. Some of the ones that we're looking at are some of the largest customers right now in media and entertainment, in biotech and electronic design automation. These are places that have massive amounts of files, and we figure if we can cut our teeth there, it can be used for a lot of other stuff. It could be used for compliance purposes, but there's a big industry around that with a lot of very specific requirements, we're not drilling into that to try to meet all those requirements. Heck, it's probably going to be hard enough trying to figure out how to make this all work across the three areas I just mentioned: media, electronic design, and bioengineering. But there
definitely go after niche markets first. Trying to beat your head against something like corporate e-discovery coming out the gate is going to be a battle you don't want to fight.
No, we don't. We don't want to fight, and it could get there. I mean, we don't scan email yet either. This is all file analytics, but we see more and more applications driving these large file stores, and so we're going to where we think, as Wayne Gretzky would say, we're going to where we think the puck is going to be, or the player is going to be, right? And we see large petabyte scale storage being a thing, a common problem for people to manage, 4 or 5 years out. And some of these industries are showing it today, and they're having a huge problem solving it. So if we can get there, hopefully we'll be in a good position to be somebody.
Yeah, that's great news. Good news.
So you're collecting your data by periodically walking the file system?
That's correct. Yeah, and so we're working on really fast scan speeds.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the scalability issue there. I mean, what is your current? And I guess you're still in development, so this stuff is all coming out in real time here. What would be a reasonable scale for what you guys could attack today? Like 1 trillion files, or 5 gazillion? Exabillion. What's it? Not exabillion.
Oh gosh.
Let's see, exabillions 10 to the 22nd.
I don't know. I don't know.
So our current scan speed right now on a single node is roughly 6 million files an hour, and we need to get that up in the range of 50 million files an hour.
Isn't that more determined by the system you're scanning? Because
it is.
Most NASs are just not good at this. When I was teaching backup school for TechTarget, the problem people kept having was, I've got this filer and it's got 4 million files, and when I try to do an incremental backup, the scan of the file system takes 4 days.
Yeah, so there's things that you have to do. You have to operate it in parallel. The scanning of those file systems wasn't necessarily is not always inhibited by the filer's response. It's also the database design and the speed of the update, right? There's a lot to be said for how fast you can update the index that you're putting all this stuff in.
Right.
And so we've got a couple of database PhDs that have figured out, what they think is a pretty fast way to update indexes. And so, there's that. And then you operate in parallel. And it may be, and in an environment of size like this, it's not a big filer, it's multiple big filers that you can work across. Right. I mean, shoot, Howard, we're going to find out whether or not this is a dog that hunts or not. And
oh yeah,
that's
no, and in the not so distant future, you have to figure out how you can crawl an object store.
That's a different game. Yeah.
If this kind of I have millions and millions of files because it's the test results from every unit that I generated that has to be trackable back to NIST because I'm making voltmeters.
Yeah, or something.
That data clearly should be stored on an object store, but object stores don't really have an easy way to walk them and know what the names of all the objects are.
That's right. So what we do today is we don't scan object stores, but we can write data to them. Then the index for that data that's in the object store is stored locally. So you can search for the data that you uploaded to the object store locally at high speed, and then find it and recover it.
Right.
So we don't have an in-cloud scanner.
The other challenge with object storage is the metadata is sort of roll your own kind of thing, unlike the metadata from a file system and stuff like that.
Right, so scanning the object store is tougher, but it's a great way to store metadata.
Yeah.
Right. So say you take data from SMB or NFS client and you store it in an object store in the cloud. You can keep all the metadata there for it, and when you restore it, you can get it all back. Yeah, so it's the flexibility of the metadata flexibility that's in the object stores is pretty good for that, for store and retrieve.
All right. Well, we're coming to about the end of this session here. Howard, do you have any last questions for Mark? All
of this file management stuff just hasn't taken off in the enterprise.
Yeah.
The stuff that Quaddra is doing is really interesting. The stuff that Data Gravity is doing is really interesting, but none of it's conceptually unique. Clearly from what Mark's saying, Quaddra can scale past what things like NTP and Northern Park Life can. But, we've had solutions people just haven't been buying, much like PC desktop management, where, LandDesk has like 5% market share. Yeah. It's, I don't understand why people don't think this is more important, and hopefully over time they'll discover that it is.
All right, Mark, any last words?
Well, we just kind of think that at big scale, it becomes a lot more important.
All right. Great. Well, thanks a lot, gents. And this is our first video interview. Hopefully it will be signs of many more to come. Keep those comments and questions coming in, gents. And we'll be talking to you. Thanks, Mark, for being on our show.
GreyBeards. All right.
GreyBeards.
All right, Howard, thanks a lot. And that's a wrap.
See you guys later.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right.
You're welcome.